Hey guys, thanks for coming to watch another video. So right now we are exploring proper 3D game design elements, and we're using a traditional adventure game as our playground. Primarily, we are using um, techniques and ideas and things taught in the Game Design Workshop 5th edition, which is an excellent reference book for game design concepts and ideas. And in using an adventure game, so unlike a traditional linear video game experience where a player reaches the end of a level and is instantly placed at the start of the next level, you want your players to essentially travel around and explore um, to try to find the entrance to those next levels. So part of the adventure experience isn't just the combat or the discovery. It's you heard the old saying that it's not the destination, it's the trip, and that is very true for an adventure game, which means you need some kind of traversal tools. You need something that the player can use and enjoy to get around the map with. So if we think of any of the more popular adventure games, such as like Uncharted, or even the Metroid, or even Metroid Prime series, um, Legend of Zelda, obviously, um, they all have different ways of getting around the map, but they all have one particular traversal tool in common, which is like a grappling hook, right? The Batman Arkham games. I mean, there's so many examples of grappling hooks done. The current big hitter right now is like the Expedition 33 game. Even they have their own version of a very minimalistic, but still grappling hook. It's a magic string that basically pulls the player from one point to another. Um, but it's really, really fun to use. Um, it allows for very interesting level designs as well. And another aspect that I really, really like about traversal tools in games, especially in adventure games, is coming up with interesting ways for them to have a secondary effect. For example, using your grapple hook to collect an item that's out of reach, or perhaps using your grapple hook to knock back an enemy or pull an enemy towards you. There's so many different things you can design in that gameplay, and you can even use it as a form of gating areas off in your adventure game. So, for example, in the first half of your game, the player might have to experience the game without a grappling hook at all. But as they're adventuring around in that first half of the game, you can start to show them places where the player will hopefully have some curiosities. They'll be like, "Oh, that's an interesting platform over there, but I don't seem to be able to reach it right now." So then they move on until they get the ability to grapple, and now they can come back, and if they recall these different platforms and areas that they found previously in their exploration, they can now use their new grapple hook to access a new area, right? You see this a lot in Metroidvania style games, where even right at the top of most Metroid games, Samus is introduced to the very first part of the world she's going to be exploring, and then she goes past the point where she's now stuck. Essentially, she cannot escape. There's no way out, but there's a hole in the floor. Well, how do I get through that hole? Well, if she travels a little further, she will be given her morph ball ability, a very iconic skill. If you're not familiar with it, Samus, the main character of the Metroid games, can shrink down to the size of like a basketball and roll around on the ground, right? So now it'll click on the player immediately. This is how I can now get through or get out of this area that I'm trapped in by rolling through that hole. It's a fantastic way to do this process because it not only creates a little bit of anxiety, making the moment memorable and important. It's also a tutorial, right? It's essentially, here's a new ability we've given you, and immediately you need to use it to continue on. So traveling and traversal abilities are very important, especially in an adventure game setting. I think they're a lot of fun. I love adding secondary effects to those abilities as well, giving them a little bit more use in playtime. So with that, let's check in with Mike, and he's going to show us how to add a grapple hook mechanic to our third-person character in the game animation sample.
All right, we're gonna start off by making ourselves a grapple interaction settings and things like that. But before we get started, we want to make a few things, right? So what I'm going to do is actually make under our demo section, we're going to create a material folder first. Materials, right? This is where I'm going to make an outline material. So I go up here to right click and go to material again, do mm_outline, right? And then I'm going to double click that. Now, a few settings that we need to change. We need to click on the main node, change this to masked and unlit, right? The reason why is because we need to get a vertex normal world space. There we go. Vertex normal world space. There we are. And then we're also going to, so this is what we're going to put into the offset after we multiply it by a parameter, so that way we control basically the line thickness that we're going to have for our outline. So if I hold down S and then call this line thickness, so there we go, and I'm going to default it to 1 by default, right? Therefore we have that. Now for the mask itself, we want a two-sided sign. I also forgot we need to make this a two-sided material, but we do want to do a -1 node for the mask. That way it'll mask out anything in between, right? And then we want to hold down the left click and make a vector 3. We're going to turn that to a color, and then we'll go outline color for the name, and we're going to default that to white. Start us off, and then I'm just going to hold M to get a multiply node again, and then hold S, emissive, power, right? And I'm going to set this default to 10, which was probably going to be a little bright anyway. And we're going to compile and save. And then I'm just going to create a material instance, let's say interact outline, or you could be like grapple outline actually. Grapple outline, right? grapple outline, and I'll change maybe the color up here in the parameters to let's see, nice bluish color there. All right, we now got that. Now what we need to do is hop back up here, and we want to create the actual grapple item itself, right? So we need to go into blueprints. I'm going to right click, make a blueprint class of type actor, BP, and then we'll say grapple target. Grapple target, right? Now this is going to need the static mesh. I'm just going to put it as a cube for right now. Cube. Oh, cube. So we want a cube. Actually, hold on. I'm going to make sure I show engine and show plugins for this here, so that way I can grab a default cube. Again, we can make something more interesting later. Don't matter. There. Then I'm just going to set the Y to like 0.2, right? Because we only need it so thick. And then I'll do probably like 0.6 for height, and we'll do like a 0.2. No, I want 0.4 for the there. Right. Now I'm going to, again, this target, I'm just going to turn off the collision. We're going to leave that actually to a box collider. Box collider, right? This will be, and then I'm going to set that 50, and I'll do 60. Oh, no, I want 220 there. No, we'll say 40. 30. And we'll do 60 here. We'll do 80. Right? That way we get it there. Now, what I'm going to do is actually come back to our project settings, right? Because we want to actually make it so that we can only see this if we're grappling. So we're going to make a new trace channel called grappling. Grappling. I'm going to set it by default to ignore. Right. That way now I can hop over here to this box, right? And over Mac by dynamic, I'm going to set to custom, and I'm going to put the block for the grapple. Everything else can stay where it is, right? Now, to actually activate this, because it's a range object, we need to actually cast or do a line trace to a further section, right? Now, I'm also going to add on our widget, right? And put this right up here. And then I'm going to scroll down and find here, look for our WBP intact prompt, draw to size. This one I am going to do screen space. You can grab the other ones that I did to make sure it always faces the player regardless, right? But for this one, I am just going to drag it in here and say set text or set prompt or no, get widget, sorry. All right, and then we're going to cast to WBP prompt off the begin play, and if it succeeds, we can then set prompt set there we go, set prompt text. I'm just going to paste in here a very simple press E to interact, and well, I'm going to change mine to R for grapple. I'll leave E for interaction myself, right? There we go. Now that we've got that kind of set up, we're going to create a folder called interfaces. Interfaces, right? Because we need to create a blueprint interface to be able to pass things through. I'm going to make this in BPI interact, right? Now inside here, interact, and then obviously I'm going to want to pass through the interacting actor. door. So, and interacting backdoor, right? Now, there are a few other ones that I want to add in there. We want to add another function. This is just going to be activate look at target, right? Then I'm going to make one for deactivating. Deactivate look at target, right? Now, we can hop back here and on to the Grapple target itself, go to classes, or not class settings, and we are going to add the BPI interaction, right? That way I can have this. Now, we're not worried about the interaction on this one. We are just looking for the activate and deactivate look at target, right? Well, off of the static mesh, we want to set outline, set overlay material, right? Now you're going to drag out a second version of this. There we go. And there. Then for the one that activates it, we want to select our material that we just made, right? Grapple outline. And now I might go back to my grapple outline because I know for a fact it's going to be hard to see it, so I'm going to give a line thickness of 4, being a little further away out there, right? Now, we also want to grab the widget, set visibility, and we can do the same down here. So deactivate turns it off, deactivate turns it on. And then I'm also going to come over here to the widget and look for visible. Turn that off. There we go. So that will give us a nice look at target. Now, obviously we can't do anything with it until we actually make a component for our player to use our grappling hook. Right? So that's great and all that we've got this here. I'm just going to, in fact, come up to our blueprint. So I pull this over here, right? Now, let's see here. I'm going to stop this one here, and then we're going to start back up when we making the actual grapple component or skill component to do the grapple.